Hi there, I'm Mr. Doyle, and this is a great undertaking. Today we will be discussing the not a sequel to Carrie, The Rage Carrie 2, a movie that was released 22 years after the OG Carrie film and is not at all based on Carrie, but rather uses the original film to attempt to justify its existence, something it fails to do. There are 7 Carrie-centric videos on this channel, one focused on the novel, one for each of the 3 Carrie movie adaptations, a video for The Rage Carrie 2, which is this video, another for Carrie the Musical, and one more for an episode of the freaking TV show Riverdale. At some point during one of these 7 Carrie videos, I will have a bucket of pig's blood dumped over my head. It's gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to it. It should be fine. For this video, I'll be trading in my traditional Carrie costume for something a bit more edgy. Because this movie isn't about Carrie, it's about Rachel, an emo goth girl from the 90s. That is something we'll get to in a little bit, but if you'll excuse me for a moment, I have to go find my black lipstick and guy liner from high school, something I absolutely wore, because I too am an emo goth girl from the 90s. I'd like to thank my wife for lending me this dangerously low-cut shirt and this lovely shawl. This is admittedly not the first time I've had this shirt on. And I gotta be honest, I am feeling myself right now. History and background. Directed by Kat Shea and referred to as the second film in the Carrie franchise, this film saw release in 1999 and received universally bad reviews from critics. The film was a complete bomb that lost $4 million at the box office. Owie. Originally titled The Curse, the plot heavily borrows from a real-life incident in which a bunch of jocks called the Spur Posse were involved in a sex scandal. The Spur Posse used a point system to keep track of and compare all the unwanted or illegal things they had done, sometimes with girls as young as 10. Fortunately, the posse as it is represented in this movie is far less extreme with their scandals. A few weeks into production, the original director quit due to creative differences, and Kat Shea struggled to take the reins with little time to prepare. This explains a lot. Is it by the book? This movie isn't based on a King novel, but the film does use the Carrie source material as a key part of the plot. The purpose of this channel is to cover anything and everything King, whether he willingly contributed and participated or not. But there was simply no way for this particular movie to be by the book, as the book doesn't exist. Also, as I mentioned before, this movie isn't about Carrie, it's about Rachel. I know, the movie is called The Rage Carrie 2, so, alright. They should have called it The Rach, like, short for Rachel. Instead of The Rage, it could be The Rach. Carrie's coattails. Vibe and tone. The opening scene is pretty wacky and gives you hope that despite the terrible ratings, maybe this movie isn't going to be entirely terrible. And it isn't entirely. Right away, there is symbolic imagery, religious fanaticism, some telekinetic stuff, and everything appears to be on the right track. A decidedly dark and menacing tone is set. Now we flash forward and it's like you're suddenly watching a different movie. Specifically, the 1995 movie Clueless. It's a complete and total tone shift. You remember that tone I mentioned had been set like just a few moments ago during the opening scene? Well, that is gone. It also gets cringy AF at times. Almost as cringy as me, a 38-year-old cis-het white dude saying cringy AF. I won't elaborate, but yikes. This movie was not only made in the 90s, it screams it. And oftentimes it's like they forget what genre they're going for. Sometimes the movie feels like a rom-com or a young adult drama. Sometimes it feels like a thriller. Sometimes it feels like a feel-good 90s one-of-the-gang football buddy dramedy. Hell, some of the character names were inspired by the names of the characters on the popular TV show Friends. What? Anyway, like most elements of this movie, the vibe shifts abruptly and entirely throughout the movie. It's not ideal. Plot and writing. So the opening scene tells us what we need to know about the Rach's Carrie powers. Once we flash forward, Rachel is an angsty emo goth teen. And it's just a normal day in high school when boom! Tragedy strikes. And no one seems legitimately upset by this very traumatic event. Like, not even Rachel, despite said tragedy striking her BFF. At this point, we're joined by someone from the original Carrie movie, even played by the same actress. Cool. All right, cool. And there's some footage from the original film being interspersed at this point as well. Some connections are being made. Maybe this isn't going to be entirely unrelated to King and the original Carrie source material after all. What follows are a series of events that let us know that Rachel still has the Carrie power she had as a child, and that she is out for revenge against one particular individual for his perceived role in the tragic thing that happened that no one seems that upset about. Against all odds, the Rach develops a relationship with one of the football players, and I kid you not, there is a Romeo and Juliet reference earlier in the film that was apparently foreshadowing for this forbidden love between a popular jock and the socially shunned goth girl. Shakespeare doth rolleth within his graveth. More connections are made to Carrie via Rachel's mom, who hasn't been in the picture since the first scene. And it's all pretty far-fetched, but hey, why not? Long story short, a group of bullies from the high school football team devise an elaborate scheme to troll Rachel at a party. It is absurdly juvenile, and what follows is this movie's version of the prom scene from the original movie and book. Anyway, everyone dies, and Rachel's boyfriend shows up, and he's all like, "I love you." Even though she just killed like so many people. Seems like that would be a bit of a red flag, like a little bit. One big and crucial difference when comparing this movie to the original is that we always feel deeply for Carrie in the book and in the first film. She has our sympathy, and we can't help but cheer her on. When Rachel starts going crazy and, killing innocent people, it doesn't feel even remotely justified. Instead of, they drove her to it and she lost control, you feel like maybe she overreacted just a teeny little bit. Anyway, the ending is awful, and as I watch the credits roll by, it says, based on the characters created by Stephen King. And well, sure, okay. 2 of them were, I guess. Whatever. visual effects, sound, editing, and cinematography. Certainly there is nothing remarkable happening here. We get a few dream sequences and flashbacks that are in a grainy black and white. Meh. And the only real special effects happen in the last 10 minutes of the movie. I'd be lying if I said it isn't an enjoyable sequence of events for the most part. There are decapitations, fire, and a dude gets his genitals torn off by a spear gun. I didn't see that coming. Points for penis spears. The editing and special effects aren't terrible, especially for the time the movie was made. There is one particular double kill that is genuinely awesome, and also unexpectedly and abruptly ends one of the good guy characters. Like, I definitely did not see that one coming, so more points. Soundtrack. Okay, what the hell is this soundtrack? We've got the main theme by the band Raw, self-described alternative metal and post-grunge band, and then a band called 13 Cats who sound like something out of a Western or maybe a Tarantino flick. And we got some like acoustic singer-songwriter stuff. It's really pretty. Then we get Billie Holiday, followed by Fear Factory and Typo Negative. What in the name of genre-hopping Jesus is going on here? There's even ska music. Like, this is something that is only allowed and or tolerated in films during the 90s. I understand needing different sounds or genres for different moods, but this is all over the place. Cast and acting. Oh, hey, it's the guy from Home Improvement. No, not JTT. It's the other one. ZTB. And hey, look, it's the guy who was Freddy in Freddy Got Fingered and also Finch in the American Pie franchise. Also Mina Suvari from two America-based films, both Pie and Beauty. Lead actress and the Rach herself, Emily Bergel, was an unknown at the time this movie dropped and still is. The fact that this movie bombed and lost a ton of money likely didn't help to bolster her acting career, but she is still out there doing her thing. She isn't nearly as formidable as you want her to be at times, but I mean, I've seen worse. Honestly, most of the acting in this movie isn't that bad. Like, no single cast member was really terrible. It's just bad writing. It's a badly written movie. And you're supposed to dislike most of the characters in the movie, so if they seem annoying or obnoxious and unlikable, well, that was likely the point, right? Final thoughts. This movie doesn't elicit the emotions from the viewer required to make us feel for Rachel. We don't empathize or sympathize with her character enough to be invested in the story or agree with all the murder stuff she does. This is more an issue with the writing than with the performances, but let me be clear, there are no shining stars among this cast. So that doesn't help the situation. Also, the genre hopping and bizarre soundtrack choices didn't do it any favors. There are a few good ideas here and there. They are mostly overshadowed by the lack of cohesive themes and 90s tropes that just didn't age well. If you haven't seen this movie, maybe don't. Or, you know what? Go ahead. Go ahead and watch it. Plenty of people on the internet think that if you don't compare it to the original and let it stand on its own merits, it's actually a good movie. I mean, that could be possible. And I gotta admit, it's hard for me to separate the two, especially when the movie doesn't separate the two. They use clips and characters from the first movie within this movie. You can't separate them. It doesn't allow itself to be separate from the first movie. Does this movie stand on its own merits? And if you took out all the Carrie stuff, would it be a good movie? No. Definitely not. Without the original film, it makes no sense. You're wrong, people on the internet. Fight me. Goodbye. Be sure to click like and subscribe to the channel for my continued analysis of all things Stephen King, pretty please with blood and guts on top. My name is Mr. Doyle, and this has been a great undertaking.